Welcome to the CACFP annual training for family daycare home sponsors. This training is presented by the Oregon Department of Education Child Nutrition Programs, also known as ODE-CNP. My name is Shirley Wu, and I am a child nutrition specialist, and I will be your presenter today. This training is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube with some light editing. Slides for this training will be shared via email after this training. If you are viewing this training through YouTube, you can request the slides from your assigned child nutrition specialist. This training is part of CACFP annual training for family daycare home sponsors for fiscal year 2026. The second part of this training is for civil rights and racial and ethnic data collection, and those trainings will be sent out by June 1st. Both trainings must be completed by the listed food program coordinator. In this training, we will go over CACFP updates and reminders, common findings and errors, and a few CACFP resources to keep in mind as you operate throughout the year. After watching this training, we hope you will understand recent and upcoming changes from ODE-CNP, and that you will know the common findings from recent years and how to prevent them. First, let's cover some updates that will be coming soon and some reminders of changes that occurred this year. This includes specialist assignment changes, provider application updates, and calendar reminders. We will be updating our specialist assignments in 2027. We wanted to provide you with this information early since we are planning a soft transition in which the new specialists will be copied on emails, take part in conversations, renewals, and reviews before they officially take over on August 1st, 2027, just in time to work with you for fiscal year 2028 renewals. Neighbor Impact will continue to work with me over the next year and transition to work with Dee Dee Pointer on August 1st, 2027. Northwest Nutrition will work with Shannon this year and then move over to Robin Ashton on August 1st, 2027. Nutrition First will continue to work with Caitlin for now and move over to me on August 1st, 2027. And then OCDC will continue to work with Eliza and Dee Dee for now and transition to Sarah English on August 1st, 2027. Again, there are no specialist changes for this year, so you will still have another year and a quarter with your current specialist. However, you will have the new specialist as a backup contact and will officially transition to the new specialist on August 1st, 2027. All right, moving on. So sponsors were sent a memo with new provider information and site application templates and new provider application instructions handout back on December 16th, 2025. At this point, all sponsors must be using these new templates and instructions. So far, we have not heard of any issues with these new forms or instructions. Let us know if you do. Remember that there is a new section on substitute providers that should be filled out if providers have substitutes in place. Make sure that you are training any substitutes and ensuring they are not on the NDL. We also wanted to notify and remind sponsors of upcoming tasks over the next half year. Later this month, we will be releasing new child enrollment forms with some light formatting. We have some more on that in just a moment. During that same time, we will release our annual updated confidential income statement with new income eligibility guidelines. The annual approved salary rate updates will be released in July. Renewals will begin on August 1st and go through August 14th this year. Food program coordinators should make time to work on renewals during this time frame or delegate the task to someone who is involved with CACFP and has access to CNP Web. In preparation for renewals, sponsors should review provider info sheets thoroughly in July and make all changes necessary prior to beginning the fiscal year 27 renewals in CNP Web. This includes any address changes, license updates, meal service and times, tiering, and more. This will help your renewals go more smoothly if you get all of this done ahead of time. Our 2027 fiscal year will start on October 1st, 2026, and carryover reports will be due in December of 2026. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute too. First, the new child enrollment forms that will be released soon includes a light formatting update, and ODE-CMP will have one version with the infant formula selection section that you can see on the screen, and one without for sponsors and providers who do not have infants in care. This is meant as a flexibility, and sponsors or providers can choose to use only one version. ODE-CMP will be rolling out this form with additional guidance on what can be completed by sponsors and providers, what is required for a complete form, and what can be edited without ODE-CMP approval. As a family daycare home sponsor, you may want to create your own template. If so, once this new form comes out, you can send in a form to get ODE-CMP approval as long as the form continues to meet all CEF requirements. So now on to carryover funds. This is a gentle reminder to all our sponsors that you should start thinking of your CACFP carryover funds soon if you are not already. Carryover funds are the leftover CACFP administrative reimbursements you have, and under CACFP regulations, family daycare home sponsors can only carry over 10% of this reimbursement from one federal fiscal year to the next. Fiscal year 2026 will end September 30th, 2026. Remember to review your written carryover policy and make sure that it is up to date. This is a good time to review the policy so that by June you can check your CACFP fund balance to see if you will be within that 10%. We don't want to have to take back any money, so if you have excess funding, make sure to reach out to your assigned child nutrition specialist and Cho, our friendly finance and audit specialist, both of whom will work with you on this. Any carryover funds that are carried into fiscal year 27 must be tracked separately and used with the first in, first out policy. We also wanted to remind sponsors of a few of the many tasks that must get done over the course of a year. This includes annual staff and provider trainings, racial and ethnic data collections, tiering, household contact surveys. So this needs to be completed for at least 5% of all providers, WIC flyers and building for the future flyers for new families, the free language assistance and accommodation statement, and the appeal procedure notification that should be sent out or that needs to be sent out once a year to all providers. With tiering, while area eligibility based on school and census data provides 5 years of eligibility, ODE-CMP recommends that all sponsors recertify area eligibility for qualified providers every year, especially if they are in areas that are in that 50 to 60% range. Every time you recertify, the provider is guaranteed another 5 years of area eligibility. We strongly encourage all sponsors to recertify their current eligible providers this year, since upcoming Medicaid and SNAP changes may cause major changes to area eligibility percentages in the upcoming years ahead. So now we're going to cover some common findings and errors from recent reviews from the last 2 years. This includes common findings in sections for monitoring, record keeping, menu records and meal pattern requirements, financial management, staff training, and procedures. When it comes to monitoring visits, there is a requirement in the regulation that reviews must be varied and unpredictable to your providers. As you create your monitoring schedules, make sure that in addition to meeting the 3 reviews per year with no more than 6 months between reviews, you are also looking to ensure that reviews are not always on the same day of the week, that they are not always for the same meals for the providers, that you are reviewing suppers, weekend meals, and holiday meals proportionally, and that you are not always reviewing the providers on the same months each year and even the same weeks. And I know we've said this before, but you don't want the providers to say to you, I always see you the 3rd week of June, so I figured you'd be here this week. You want to be sure that you are getting an unvarnished version of their daily operations, Having varied and unpredictable reviews help with making sure that providers are not cleaning up their documents right when they're expecting you. So in addition to frequency, when monitors head out to providers, they must make sure they are checking all required documents to meet CACFP requirements. Some common items that have been missed include not checking attendance records to ensure they comply with all DELC and CACFP requirements, not checking that current CEFs are on file for all participants, not documenting all the findings, technical assistance, and corrective actions that were assigned to the providers, and not completing all monitoring forms, including adding in not applicable or NA for questions that do not apply. So we're going into depth on attendance records. These are an important part of provider record keeping, and monitors must check that they comply with both DELC and CACFP requirements by including full names for all participants, a complete date with month, day, and year, and the in and out times for each participant. Attendance records must be up to date to the time of the review. This means that monitors should be checking attendance records against the participants and making sure that all records are accurate. With KidCare, we have seen a rise in providers having multiple attendance records. If your KidCare is not set up to require actual in and out times, or if your providers are allowed to maintain paper attendance, which is entered into KidCare after the fact, then KidCare is not considered the official attendance record. Providers must have the original attendance documents for your review. Moving to child enrollment forms. While sponsors are great at collecting the CEFs, they are not always checking to ensure that providers retain a copy of the CEFs that is easily accessible by the providers. Sponsors must check with the providers during each monitoring visit that CEFs are on file for all participants at the home, including for providers' own children. This helps ensure that providers know where to find their CEFs and that there is a backup in case your files are not available. This can also be a helpful reminder during visits for both providers and monitors for the providers to submit any new CEFs for newly enrolled participants or for participants with expiring CEFs. One thing we see fairly consistently is that providers do not always have all required menu supporting documents on file for their 5-day reconciliation menu. The supporting documentation that will be required are listed on this table. Whole grain rich foods will require one of several different documentation, but the most common one is the ingredient list, which is readily available for most items. Other available documentation can include WIC lists, product formulation statements, also known as PFSs, child nutrition labels, also known as CN labels, and standardized recipes. You do not need every single document on this list, only one for each of the whole grain rich items that are served. Breakfast cereals, yogurt, and tofu will all require a nutrition fact label to show that they meet either added sugar limit requirements for cereal and yogurt, or to show that they meet protein requirements for tofu. Medical accommodations will require a medical statement for the participant if the accommodation will mean that the meal does not meet meal pattern. And nutritionally equivalent milk substitutes will need a meal preference form for the participant, a product packaging showing the item that was served, and if the product is not on the ODE CMP approved list for nutritionally equivalent milk substitutes, then a nutrition facts label or PFS will be required to show that the milk substitute does meet nutritional standards. You can refer to the Documenting Your CACFP menu handout for this information. Just a heads up that we will be updating that handout for the sugar limit wallet card links, and this will be in our June newsletter, so keep an eye out for that. During annual trainings with providers, really re-emphasize that they will need to save the appropriate supporting documentation anytime a new item is served, and it'll be best practice to include discussions with your providers on how they are maintaining the documentation. Providing solutions such as binders or file folders for product labels, or even showing how to set up a folder on their phones may go a long way to making sure that they have everything on file. Moving on to menu records, when we review provider menus, these are the common errors we see. Missing meal components, items listed as whole grain rich but not meeting whole grain rich requirements, incorrect milk fat percentage for the age group served, non-nutritionally equivalent milk substitutes served without a medical statement on file, yogurts that do not meet the new added sugar limit requirement, and not listing the actual food served on the menu. As you might have seen though, there were some last minute updates from USDA last Friday, so we'll talk about that when we come to that slide. As a reminder, the meal components required at breakfast include milk, grains, fruits, and/or vegetables with the option to substitute a meat alternate for a grain 3 times a week. For lunch or supper, it includes all 5 meal components, including milk, grains, fruit, vegetable, and a meat or meat alternate. And as snack, providers must serve any 2 of the 5 meal components. Where we often see the issue is with family-style meal service, where components are not all served at once, not having adequate amounts of food, having serving bowls or pitcher sizes that are not appropriate for the age group, and not having staff members at the table to support the meal service. You can check out the family-style meal service training for a few overview of these requirements, and we'll have these links on the slide, which you'll have available in your inbox after this training. Providers are required to meet once per day whole grain rich requirements. The definition of whole grain rich is a product that contains between 50 to 100% whole grains, and any remaining grains are enriched or whole. Remember to check supporting documentation for whole grain rich items. Items will generally have ingredient labels available. Check the first 3 grain ingredients. The first ingredient must be a whole grain, and the second and third, if there are any, must be whole or enriched grains. The issue generally comes up when providers think an item is whole grain rich when it's not, so practice ingredient label reading with those providers. So here's my original slide on fluid milk requirements, and this is what I plan to train with you until last Friday. So this is our new requirement that will take in effect by June 8th, which is 30 days. With the new final rule that was released May 8th, the fluid milk options for children ages 2 and over are now expanded to all milk fat types to match with the NSLP requirements released earlier this year. While the 1-year-olds can still only have unflavored whole milk, 2 to 5-year-olds can now have unflavored milk of any fat type. Children 6 years old and older can have unflavored or flavored milk of any fat type. While additional information may be released by USDA on implementation requirements, please notify your providers of these changes by the effective date. Moving on to milk substitutes. So milk substitutes is a complicated topic, and these have resulted in various meal pattern findings over the years. In general, it is a good idea to remember that nutritionally equivalent milks need a parent-signed meal preference form, and non-nutritionally equivalent milks will need a completed medical statement in order to be claimable. Non-nutritionally equivalent milks include most milk substitutes. The only nutritionally equivalent milk substitutes there's some specific soy milks like Pacific Soy Ultra and some pea protein milk like Ripple. So check the ODE CMP meal accommodations page for a list of nutritionally equivalent milk substitutes. There may be additional milk substitutes out there that meet the requirements but are not on our list. If so, you will need to check that they meet all protein, vitamin, and mineral requirements first before you accept it as part of a reimbursable meal without a medical statement. And both breakfast cereals and yogurts sugar limits changed to an added sugar limit as of last October. It didn't affect breakfast cereals too much since most of the sugars in cereals are added sugars already. But the change to added sugars impacted a few yogurts. We did see that yogurt sugar limit caused some findings, and you will want to make sure that providers have the most recent added sugar wallet card on hand. This card is available from the ODE CMP CACFP meal pattern page. The last item in the menu records section is on listing actual foods. Make sure that providers are trained to list the actual foods that were served on their menus. This means they are listing with enough detail to identify the food correctly. We have seen fruit and vegetable mixes listed on KidCare, and those will need to be removed, and new vegetable or fruit mixes need to be listed with more detail. So for example, a California medley will need to list broccoli, cauliflower, and carrots. It's a good idea to add common vegetable mixes into KitCare for providers to choose. Moving to financial management now, one common finding we saw was that there were insufficient internal controls in place to ensure that written policies and procedures for CACFP financial management was being followed consistently. Remember that sponsors are expected to develop written procedures that matches with actual practices, and written procedures must be updated if the on-the-ground situations change. What we have seen is that with changes in duties or staffing, some of the financial management requirements are not being passed on to the new staff. Management functions like coding for allowable costs, ensuring timelines are met, and that all source documents are saved are not being adequately followed. Training the finance team is important, and the financial management procedures are an important training tool for this. Charging unallowable costs to the CACFP fund account is one of the common errors we see, and sponsors are reminded that all cost categories must be approved in the annual CACFP budget before they can be charged to the fund account. The approved budget identifies the list of allowable costs for CACFP, and this must be integrated into your written procedure. Sponsors do have the flexibility to update their budget throughout the year, so anytime you identify a new expense that you would like to charge to the CACFP fund account, check against the approved budget. Is the category already approved? Is it within the stated amount within a 10% range? If not, notify your specialist and get a new budget approved before you charge that expense. We know that most of the time the person who runs the fiscal department is different than the program manager, so it's important to have consistent and clear communication with your finance team. Work with them on the CACFP budget each year and list out all the CACFP expenses and documentation needed. And documentation is vital. You want to make sure that you are keeping all required source documentation to support all CACFP charges you have per FNS 796-2 Revision 4. For all charges, it may be helpful to complete a Ctrl+F search on the document for keywords like mileage or labor and see what is required to be saved. Labor costs must be supported with timesheets and time distribution reports to show that you are charging time to CACFP accurately. Travel reports must include the traveler's name, date and time, origin and destination, reason for travel, receipts, and signatures. If there are multiple people who travel, make sure that documentation and mileage tracking is consistent. Next, as a reminder, training for both internal staff and providers is vital in ensuring a smooth running CACFP operation. When it comes to trainings, make sure you are documenting the trainings that occur. In addition to being a requirement, this helps you to track required timeframes, and it can help you to develop future trainings. All training documentation must include the training date with month, day, and year, the time it starts and ends, the location of the training, the full name of the trainers, the training topics covered, the name, position, and signatures of those in attendance, and the training materials that were used. Finally, we have our procedures. Overall, you are all doing a great job with maintaining written procedures. We do want to remind sponsors that provider appeal procedures must be sent out to all providers at least once a year, and when they are seriously deficient, suspended, and/or being terminated. Remember that all appeal procedures must include the following information: a statement that the procedures apply to all providers, the providers may have representation, that they may review the record and refute the action in writing, that the hearing official is independent and impartial, and that the provider can contact the hearing official directly. A timeline for issuing a decision is listed, and that the determination made by the hearing official is final. The appeal procedure is important because it lays out the provider's rights and will help you to uphold your decisions. Before we end our training, we want to remind you of the different resources that are available, including the Family Daycare Home Sponsor Manual, available Family Daycare Home Sponsor trainings, and a few additional resources. The Family Daycare Home Sponsor Manual is the main resource for Oregon Family Daycare Home sponsors. This manual was last updated in April 2022, and we do have this on our list to update. While most information in this manual remains up to date, the meal pattern section has not been updated for information like sugar limits, registered dietitian signatures for medical statements and traditional foods, and of course the new fluid milk rule. During this time, we recommend that sponsors refer to our current meal pattern trainings on our CACFP training page or our center-based manual, which is updated for all meal pattern requirements under chapters 9, 10, and 11. Although note that the Chapter 9 training on fluid milk will be updated later this year to match with our new whole milk policies. We also encourage sponsors to refer to the Family Daycare Home Sponsor training slides that are uploaded to Google Drive. There's a link on this slide. It includes helpful resources, including slides for this training and some handouts that we will talk about in a minute. The meal pattern training slides that are saved in the meal pattern folders here are also up to date, again, except for that fluid milk slide. There are a few additional Family Daycare Home specific resources that were developed over the last few years that we want to point out. The Family Daycare Home Provider Record Keeping Checklist lists out all required documents for providers, and we encourage all monitors who want to be sure they're checking off all required documents to bring a copy of this checklist when they're out on review. The Family Daycare Home Sponsor Record Keeping Checklist includes a list of all documents that sponsors need to have. This is a general list that will apply to all sponsors, and additional records may be needed depending on your operations. And finally, we have the Provider Application Instructions handout, which we went over near the beginning of this training. All handouts are also available on the Family Daycare Home Sponsor Trainings folder. We also have a few resources that were updated this last year. This includes the updated WIC Whole Grains handout and the updated WIC Cereals handout. The whole grain handout includes expanded lists of items, including an entire page of gluten-free items that meet whole grain rich requirements. Both handouts are useful visual guides for common items that can be found in local grocery stores throughout the state, which will meet whole grain rich requirements and breakfast cereal requirements. The CACFP Crediting Handbook is a USDA resource that was recently updated and released earlier this year. This is a technical assistance resource for menu planning and is a supplement to the Food Buying Guide. Most CACFP operators find a component-based common food items table showing whether food items are creditable or not to be the most useful. Note that this handbook does not currently reflect the new fluid milk final rule that was released May 8th. In review, in this training, we went over CACFP updates and reminders, common findings and errors, and a few CACFP resources to keep in mind as you operate throughout the year. If you have additional questions later on, you can always connect with your assigned child nutrition specialist. ODE supports equity and excellence for every learner. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. So thank you everybody for taking this training, and thank you all for taking part in CACFP and helping childcare providers across the state provide nutritious meals to children. Now more than ever, this is an important resource in making sure that children are fed.